Okay. Maximize this. Alright, how's this? Is this okay? You recording this? Is this good? Okay. Sorry, obviously I haven't been on this character. So, I'm just making a little video just for no reason, for fun. Um, just because I was watching Mr. Llama, Senor Llama, Senor Yama, as I like to call him. He was making this video talking about Diablo. I think it was 2, and also Diablo 2 Resurrected, Resuscitated. Anyway, I just want to make a video to sort of like reminisce about like. He was talking all about all the good things about Diablo 2, and I totally agree. And I just wanted to make a video because all my videos are about single player. But you know, when I was playing this game back in the day, and I'm talking back in the day, like 2000, like 5, 6, 7, or like when I was like, you know, I was like I was like a preteen or whatever. I was like 12 or what. I'm not old, but on playing on Battlenet, and just, you know, Mr. Llama mentioned Dueling a little bit, but I just want to do some reminiscing about the Battlenet days and like what that was about and what we were doing. So when now I do my single player thing just for fun and I make different builds, but back then the whole game for me was dueling, PvP. That was all I did. That was all I did, you know? And that was like, I think that was all that a lot of people did. That was the major draw of the game for me. And as we do the D2 Resurrected thing, I don't know. I just hope that it like gets its due. I'm not sure dueling like is so much of a thing anymore, just because there's not enough people playing the game now. I went on Battlenet like when I sort of started, like, you know, like I said, I played Diablo 2 when I was like young, like 12 or whatever. And then in my like second round of being into the game, like these past few years, I like don't play it anymore, but because I'm too busy. But I tried going on Battlenet first, and there just wasn't enough people, not enough things going on, and it was all bots. And I tried to duel, but I couldn't really duel because people were too good. Because the only people left were like hardcore, like super dedicated to the game. Not here. You know how to do this moonwalking thing when you hit shift. This is another boom. Yeah. Anyway, so some of the things. So dueling in Diablo 2 always took place. Usually, this was actually my favorite setup as it happens. Always in Act 1, Bloodmoor. Big open fields, squares, blah, blah, blah. And a big part of the culture, which I didn't... The funny thing is, like, people would do what we used to call BM, which was, like, stood for bad manners. They used to do all this BM shit, and honestly, on occasion, I would engage in it. I guess you would call it sort of trolling today or something, but we always called it BM. And you would have stuff like, you would have a bone necro, like put bone walls all up in the fucking thing so no one could get out. You would have summon druids who they would declare hostile, and they would stay in town, but then their bear would walk out, and they would be like, they were summon druids, so they had like level 1,000,000 bears with all the synergies, and those bears were like sick, you know. They would fucking like, and you would just be standing here, la la la, and this bear would come along and just like fucking kill you when you're not paying attention. That some people just like to do that. They would just be asshole. They would just create a character, level it to like level 80 something or 90, just to be an annoying asshole with a bear. And like literally that was their whole deal. People would do that, and they would probably spend hours doing that, you know. And people would camp the town, like meteor sorks would just boom would just put all this fire and shit down, or a blizz sork would just you know, there was a lot of like camping things that were going on when people would just do it just to be dicks, or like if they were like pissed off at someone. There are all sorts of BM shit you could do. Like when someone had to, when you died and you had to go out and get your body, if you killed someone when they were like, you know, naked, as they would say, that was BM, and you would have their like bodies all scattered, and they would be like running around trying to get their gear so they could. It was fun, and you would, and like if you stole their gold, that was BM. That was fucked up. But a lot of times people didn't have that much gold on their dueling characters anyway. But sometimes they did, and it was like a funny thing because in Diablo 2 gold, it's totally useless, but people would still get like super pissed about it. And another thing was like, I considered dueling with Hammerdins. I considered some people would duel with their Hammerdin. I considered that BM just inherently. There were some dueling characters. I thought dueling was it was okay. It was pretty well balanced, I thought. But there were definitely some characters that were kind of OP, and Hammerdins were way too OP, and they probably are just kind of OP in the game, period. But another thing was the other characters I really remember were like Light Sorks and Javazons, especially if they had an Infinity Merc. They would do huge. That was like one shot kill. And also Blizzorks can really get you. That could be one shot. And so, but people would have strategies to deal with it, which was kind of a fun thing. Like if you were a barb trying to duel a Blizzork, you know, the Blizzork would be like, they would always do this. They'd be like, go. That would be the little, or they would do the, they would do it over their head like this if they could see him, you know. And the barb would be like, wait a minute, and you would see this dude run back to his stash, and you know that he was getting a Monarch shield with 4 perfect sapphires in it. Not a J mod, nothing fancy, just a Monarch shield, 4 open sockets for the cold res. And the Sork would be like, oh, fuck you, because then he knew he couldn't do any damage. And yeah, man. So that was the whole thing. But there are all sorts of like, and you know, you could bring your T-gods for light stuff, or have a shield with. So there were all sorts of gear changes that would go on, and it was just like a fun part of like how you built your character to deal with different stuff, you know. And Enigma was very powerful in dueling, super powerful. Obviously, I mean it's powerful in the game. Period. Yeah, so that was some of the fun like shenanigans type stuff. Because back in the day, you know, and this is what I was going to say earlier, like when I tried to do it more, I mean, this was still a couple of years ago now, but when I tried to do it more recently, like everyone in the game, they had like perfect gear all the time. But back in the day, there were just so many noobs and people who didn't have that much time to play, and people who, you know, their gear was not perfect, and my gear was never perfect, you know. Like, I have better gear on some of my single-player characters right now than I did on, like, a whole bunch of characters that I would duel with. And, like, and it was fun. And you could kill people, and it was good. I mean, you know, and they would kill you, and it was like, bang, 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 bang. It was fun. Yeah, because they were noobs, man. And you could fool them, and you could, like, totally fuck with them, you know. It was fun, you know, some of the shenanigans. But there's no noobs in the game anymore, and noobs were an important part of the game. And being a noob was an important part of your getting into the game. You would be a noob, and people like I got scammed out of shit, and I got killed and stuff like. And then you get wise, you get streetwise, you know, and you could have 8 people in a game, and you would like talk to these strangers, and like, you know, you develop your shit talk and you develop online, you know, you'd have your friend list or whatever on Battlenet. Like, that was fun stuff. You would log in and you would be like, how was it? Like, it was, I forget how or FL, or what was it? I don't know how it went. But then you would log on, and it would give you a list of just like, you could have 25 friends, I think, and it would give you a list of who's on. And you could do like FM to like message everyone, or you could do, what was it, like like a certain name? Is that how it went? I don't remember exactly. But then, you know, you can message a specific person and it would appear in green. And, you know, there'd always be like a long, like, chat of all the people talking. And you could go to the message and, like, read shit people said, blah, blah, blah. And it'd be in green where you chatted to your friends, all this stuff. Yeah. So, anyway, I just want to do this video to reminisce because, like, there's a lot of Battlenet stuff. It was a very important part of the game. And most of the people, the Diablo 2, like, people who do stuff on YouTube these days, we're all doing single player stuff from what I can tell. I mean, I think there's like, what is it, like slash Diablo? There's like sub project Diablo. I don't know. There are people who are like playing online with other people, but I don't think it's such a big thing anymore. And so I don't even know if I'll play Diablo 2 Resurrected, but you know, that was the whole thing of Diablo 2. And I also got into like I said, there were fun builds. Like one of the best things I ever did, most fun I ever had dueling was I had a rabies druid, and I would have a druid. It was basically I had my primary weapon was set up kind of like a fury druid would be. I had like an e-bots for like hardly any reason. I didn't need it, but the way rabies worked is it would do as much damage as the equipment you had on. So I would hit someone with an e-bots. And then I would switch to a Death's Web and like a shield with facets in it and just run all around. And I would never kill anyone because as soon as they saw their health getting really low, they would just go back into town. But that was fun. And another build I had was and I actually had sort of a build like this on single player early on, where I had a full Talrasha set. And like if someone walked into a dueling room and they had a full set, like a full IK set or a full Tal set, you were just like, fucking noob. Like, because it was not the best gear, you know? You'd be like, what a fucking idiot this guy is. and so I had like this troll build where I'd walk in like a Tal Rasha Sork, because you have the glow and everything, and people would be like, this guy's a fucking moron. But what the build was, I was a Blizz Sork. I had a Storm Shield. I had like, you know, massive damage reduction. I had 20 points in telekinesis. I was an energy shield Sork, and of course so I had huge so I was very, very tanky, and max block. And so like these barbs would try to kill me, and I would just stand there, and they would whirlwind right through me, and I would just blizzard down on top of them, not moving. And they would be like, "How do you do this?" And because people were noobs, they didn't understand telekinesis. They just didn't get it, you know. Anyway, so that was a fun build. And another thing that was good was there were a lot of, and this was to Mr. Lama's point about like, I don't know, just all the different like items. A big way that items were useful and like in Diablo 2 was they were useful they were like dueling, there were subcultures of dueling. Specifically low level, like very VLLD as they call them, and then LLD. And so there were these people would duel in normal mode because your resistances would be appropriate. But a lot of these characters were actually glitch rushed through hell so they could get all the stat quests and all this kind of shit. But anyway, and G rushing was a whole nother thing. But anyway, so you would have people who would do level 9 dueling, level 18 dueling, and level 30 dueling. And there was a whole market, like on D2JSP, of like level 9 gear. And if you found like a good level 9 thing, it was worth like a ton of forum gold. It was like really valuable to find. So that was one way and like max damage jewels, those were worth quite a bit. And again, there was quite a bit of noobery going on, you know? You didn't have these people who had like the best ever fucking trophy gear. People just like, I had low level dueling characters, and it was just like, I would just get as many like 15 level 18 max damage jewels as I could, put them in different pieces of gear, and just go ahead. And you know, I made a charger, I made a this, I made it. You just try to make any kind of low level dueling, you know, any kind of character, but level 18, and it was a whole deal. It was fun, you know. Or you could do 30, you know, you do level 30 whirlwind barb, level 30 this, level 30 that, and yeah, man, it was cool, you know. And there's a lot of shit that went on, man. Yeah, so it was fun stuff. Scams, people would scam you. This is not really a dueling thing, but there were a lot of scams in Diablo 2 that no one talks about. Like the trading scams where they would put in a weapon and they would click it, they would like click it, but they would like replace it. You know, if I was gonna like buy this, you know, this has a little bit of a shade to it, but I think if you took like a crappy short sword and put like, I don't know, maybe like a perfect diamond in it, or maybe an amethyst, I don't know, it would take a shade like that, and then you would like click it in the window, and then you would at one point grab your shitty short sword with a gem in it, and they would be like, yeah, like, so I don't know, like they wouldn't check to see if you had switched it out, and then I never scammed anyone, but I got scammed a couple times with that trick, even after I knew that it was a trick. It was pretty easy to catch. You just had to keep your thing on it, and especially if they were like clicking it up and down, that was a huge warning. Some people would do like weird. This was all sorts of stupid. People were so dumb. They would do like gold scams. They'd be like, oh, if they wanted gold, they'd be like, oh, I'll trade you my torch for like 500 gold, but they would say, drop it on the ground. Just drop it on the ground. You have to drop it on the ground because, you know, you couldn't trade a torch or something. So you'd like set up, like this wall was a place where they would do it. And you would like, someone would drop their thing here and someone drop their thing here. And then you would each run around to the other side and get it. But sometimes people, like, they didn't realize that a sork could pick up gold with telekinesis. So the sork would like drop their thing over here. And then you drop your gold, and the sork would just telekinesis your gold and pick up their torch and leave, and shit like that. Or one time, and I did do this one time to somebody. I was doing it with a necro, and this dude dropped like some piece of equipment, and I just turned it into an iron golem and like picked up my shit and left. And he didn't realize what happened. You know, I just turned his item into an iron golem, and he was like, "Wait, where'd it go?" I was like, "It's gone." I did do that once, and I felt bad about it. I don't know, but like when you're young, you have to sort of experiment with being an asshole, just to know, so you know that you don't like being an asshole. And another subculture of dueling was what was called physical dueling, physical duels, phys duels, which would basically be, it was usually like three characters. It was concentration barbs, zealots, and Fury Druids. Fury Druids were less common. They weren't quite as good, I think. Although you could have really good ones, so they could be very good, because they had very high life, as did the Barbs. Zealers were, you know, and that was like, physical duelers were like, that was a very serious subculture, actually. They took it very seriously, and their gear was usually extremely good. And because of the way the hit mechanism works with attack rating and then defense, like part of your chance of getting hit is your level. And so for physical duels, it was like very fine grained, and people would get to very high levels. And like I said, their gear was super good. They paid a lot of attention to it. They got like as near perfect as they could get. And in physical dueling, there was like, when you talk about BM, they really did not like the bad manners stuff. There was a sort of a purity to physical dueling. There was almost like, I don't know, this sounds so dumb because it's like, but there was like an honor thing to it, you know? And they would just be like, they would just really look down on you if you did not like play by their little take it seriously by their little subculture, you know? And that was the thing. You would stand like this, and you'd go like, go, and then you would start, and you just stand. You just hold your mouse down on the other person, and the Zealer would go, and you as your barb would go, what, you know, and certain things like that, and there were sort of like rules, at least when some of the people I were playing was like a smiter. A smiter was not a physical dueler. That was not okay. That was BM, because you could not block smite. So it had to be blockable. You had to do a certain amount. It was something like 95% of your, you know, these were like rules in quotes, but like a grief, people really frowned upon grief because because it had venom and it had so it was like too much poison damage, you know. So almost everyone used Breath of the Dying, I think, usually a Zerker. So yeah, it was a whole deal. It was a whole deal. And one of my favorite scams that was another thing. It was another like gold scam, and it worked better on. It didn't work quite as well on this map setup, but someone would be like,
not here.
People would fool you. Like they would be like, "Oh, well, I can't do the trade thing. Like you have to drop your gear on the ground. You have to drop it, you know." And what they would do is they would get it so their merc was outside, and they would be in town. So they would be like this, and they'd be like, "Okay, go over there, drop your stuff over there." And they'd be just inside town, and their merc would be like floating around out here, right? And then you'd be over there, and then they would very quickly declare hostility on you, and their merc would instantly fucking kill you, because mercs were super powerful. And then you'd be dead, and all your gear would be on the ground, and then they would just take all your shit and leave. That, I don't know if that ever happened to me. I definitely saw it done. It may have happened to me, but I don't think I lost anything important. People would do shit like that. I don't know. They would. At a certain point, it's just like this. I don't know. Like drop your stuff on the ground. Yeah, no, my thing doesn't work. I'm different somehow. My game is. It's like what? And people would fall for that because there were so many noobs. I don't know. It was a fun time. It was a fun time. And yeah, sitting in the chat, looking for games. Just sitting, looking for games. Just talking shit to people, hoping that a duel game pops up on the list. Yeah, man, it was a whole deal. It was a whole deal. Ears, when you died, you dropped an ear, and it would say so-and-so's ear, and no one really picked them up, but sometimes they did, and it was just like, haha, fuck you, I got your ear. You know, and they would go into the trade, and they would, like, click on you and, like, trade, and they would take your ear and just go, like, just drop it, like, boom, like, haha, like, I have your ear. And it was just like, yeah, I get it, dude. But yeah, so, anyway... Maybe someday there will be noobs in Diablo 2 again. Noobs were a lot of the fun. It was fun to be a noob, and it was fun to take advantage of noobs. Noobs are an important part of the game, and dueling was an important part of the game, and trading was too. But that's a whole nother topic. So anyway, just some reminiscences of the BNet days on the Diablos. All right, catch you later.